that your mom?
Yeah. Because mine is... You can... On the side.
I can't.
Oh, how do you get to it?
I gotta go out of the screen and get to it. How in the heck I do that? Oh well. Hey, we're waiting for a couple of seconds to see if somebody else comes in. Minute or so. Probably not a whole minute though.
60 seconds.
And
Less than 60
we
seconds.
can't see anyway who's on, so don't.
Yeah.
You wanna be bashful, huh?
No.
Okay. All right.
I thought you was gonna say we couldn't see the like the screen.
Oh, okay. Man, I hate that. I hope my phones don't start going off. Like those little knock-knocks and stuff. How did I miss that? Oh, well. Well, hey, what's up, people? So, again, this is Rising Ground Church. This is by way of our individual pages, because we get a little more views on these pages than we do the church page right now. So we thought this was a really serious and important message. So thanks for tuning in.
Thanks for joining us, everybody. Welcome.
Welcome. So this really got started by the other day I was scrolling through Facebook and I ran across a message from T.D. Jakes, right? And he was talking about relationships. And he was talking about, I had never heard it quite this way before, as far as when God created Adam and Eve, and how it was like everything that he created was good, except the one thing. And the one thing was, he said it's not good for man to be alone, right? So I was like, well, yeah, okay, right. I never really quite paid attention to that or heard anybody say it. So then he goes on to say, so God goes back and adjusts Adam. So he puts him to sleep, and then he brings forth out of Adam that which was in Adam, which was Eve, because they were one. But the whole message was about people being alone, or loneliness in by way of we're designed for human connection. Right, so we're designed for human connection. So I heard that a couple of minutes of it, and then I started to think about our marriage and how we met, and all of this stuff. And it got real serious for a moment, because this whole ministry, the Rising Ground Church ministry, is really a mirror image of our relationship, our marriage. We advocate divine flow. Divine flow is, again, a person, us, riding the current of God, specifically designed for us. So, I started thinking about our marriage, and then I kind of went in and I told her about it, and so we kind of decided, you know what, man, this would probably be a kind of a nice point to kind of talk about our marriage, and specifically because of this. Man, ever since we got married, it's been crazy. People always... I see all that? No, I'm saying it, man. I'm saying it. People, they always see something in us that we don't see. How about that?
Okay.
Is that all right?
And I always ask, like, questions or want to know certain things about.
Yeah, based on what they see, which we never understand what they see. You know what I mean? So, this is kind of speaking to that.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Did you want to
No,
jump
I
in
think
here?
I should. Well, I guess I was going to say also that this is not, what do you call it, like a cliche, how do you stay married, or how do you stay in a relationship, or, because, honestly, a lot of those things are good, but I also feel like they can be damaging to a person because they don't really get clued in on the ultimate truth. Right. So this is not going to be a video about, communication and, all these steps,
love
and
languages,
X, Y, and Z's,
right.
that you need to do in a relationship. We will touch on certain things in this video. I'm not sure exactly how long it's going to be, but we will touch on a few things that like that, you know.
Right.
Because they are important, so we're not trying to disregard that. But at the same time, we have learned that there are other things that are even more important than that, that truly have sustained our marriage for 19 years and counting. So
Yeah, right. You know, so we just want to have a candid moment, you know, not exactly sure how this is going to go, like she just said, because it's not rehearsed. It's not anything that's written down or you know, rehearsed.
yeah,
We're just trying to find our way to you by way of this conversation and our experience with one another.
yep,
So the first thing I'll just say is, you know, when we first met, I kind of met on a crossroads, and it was kind of cool. She was coming this way downtown, and it was like this, boom. So it was like a crossroads, and met there, and I had my friends there. She had hers, and we talked, exchanged numbers, and you know, just like ordinary.
back in the day, well, I mean, some
You
people
know,
still meet
back
like
in the
that,
day,
but,
yeah.
but I'm just saying, some people still meet like that. But the thing about that was, I wasn't even gonna go out because I didn't want to.
Yeah.
And then my friend was like, "Come on, girl, it's my birthday. Let's go to the mall." So that's how I ended up even being there. So it was kind of like a coincidence that I always say now we know was not a coincidence, but
Right.
you know, divine moments and timing, and like you said, even with the crossing of our paths, you know.
Yeah. And you know what? There's really no I should say there probably only are coincidences when you are moving outside of this flow of God. And we wasn't even like really people that were really crazily religious. We're not crazy religious now, but we were young and we were doing our thing. You know what I mean? So there's a lot of craziness going on. But however, we're not going to get into all the whole story, because the one of the main points that we want to hit home is this divine flow aspect of our life. And we know that relationships, period, how many people are desperate for a relationship with somebody, or they're in a relationship that is bad. They are tired, they're lonely, and they're all of these little different things. What's the magic component
Right.
from keeping you, for the most part, from those feelings? And again, it's this divine flow aspect. She and I have broken up. You know, we were when back then we were broken up, and then one day I was sitting at the table in my house, and God said to me, and I'm not even hearing God like that. That's not even a normal thing,
Right.
you know, for me at that time. So it was like, I need you to get up, and I need you to go over her house. And I was like, and I hadn't seen her or talked to her, I think, in about a year. It was a year prior, you know, up until that point, I hadn't talked to her, and I was like, what? Call who? You know? And I'm like, man, I said, you know, and I'm like, what is going on? But it was so strong, and I had never felt that like that before. So I'm like, okay. So I get in my car, and I'm driving across town, and I'm on the interstate, right? And I start crying, and I'm like, hold on. So I call my mom's, and I'm like, hey, Mom, I'm crying here. What's going on? Please tell me what's happening. You know, my mom, she was telling me some stuff. So the point here is, God had a plan for she and I. He has a flow, a stream, a connection that we all are part of in our own individual journey and walk. And at that moment, he plugged me in consciously to his plan or to his purpose or to his will at that moment. And I could have said no. I could have said nope. I could have done all kind of things, but I was like, I think I was at a point where, you know, I was even kind of lonely. I hadn't, you know, we hadn't been together, but there are other things going on, but I still wasn't. It wasn't nothing, and with other people or whatever. But I still was like, but so I decided to yield, and I decided to go with it. So I went with it, and the result is we connected back, we hooked back up. You know, of course, everybody has their relationship woes and joes and foes, whatever. But it's not that dramatized when you plug into the flow of God. So when God is leading you to do something, well, like he led me and he led her, and we connected back, it wasn't a lot of drama. You know, there were things that we had to work out of ourselves,
Right.
but it wasn't a lot of that. So you jump on in here.
Well, no, because it's funny because it's like I remember feeling like not really for certain. I mean, and I think that's a really big thing too. Sometimes people may say, well, how do you know that person is the one for you? Or how do you, I mean, really, that's the thing. How do you know that person is the one? And sometimes it comes just like how he said, in the way of the Spirit is literally guiding you to that one. You know, there's not a lot of even rational thinking on your part with it. Because for me, people were telling me, like, you know, because we were young, they were like, are you sure you want to get married? Are you ready for that?
Your mama.
I don't know. You know, close family were even like questioning our decision to get married. And on one hand, I understand it, because you think a person is young, you think they're not ready for marriage. But in our case, it was different, because there was a divine plan that was in the works that we didn't really know about that. We weren't even, like he said, we weren't even in tune with God like that. Yeah, we had a relationship with God, but it wasn't anything that was like, oh, you know, we meditate and pray and listen to God every day. No, it wasn't. None of that was going on. So it was literally just a divine plan for us to be together. But I think the thing is, after that happens, then it's up to you to stay in that plan, you know, because there have been moments when we could have chosen something else, or we could have chosen another path, but because we've been aware of that, what do you want to call it?
Well, we can call it a few things. You can call it, she called it earlier, equally yoked. Is that the right time?
Or alignment.
Alignment, yeah. Being in alignment with something of God. I like to call it too, you know, again, this divine flow, because it was the divine hand that orchestrated it. So, and it was not only the hand, but it was the plan. And that's so serious, man, because when at the beginning we were talking about how I said that, you know, when God created Adam and Eve, and when he created everything, he said everything was good except that Adam was alone. So Adam's walking around here, and God's like, what's going on? He's like, you know what? He's alone. So let me separate the oneness that is, you know, here's Adam is this one man with both male and female aspects, whatever you want to say it. And then he separates them so they can be face to face. And that's so important, because that just really speaks to, again, the importance of communion and connection and relationship. So when we talk about marriage, man, and you know, this significant relationship, we can't take it for granted. And you have to allow that flow, man. You know, first you have to yield to it. You got to believe it, you got to yield to it, and then you got to obey it. And then you got to, after all of that's done, you got to decide to stay with it, you know, in any specific instance. And this is not just about marriage, you know, because marriage and relationships really is the critical element to all that you're dealing with in your life, especially if you have, or you in a relationship. Because if you're in a relationship and it's not good, it filters off into every area of your life. Your success, your knowledge, your education, your happiness, your wholeness, all of these things. So you really want to be plugged in to the right thing, the right relationship. And it's no spookiness, there's no, you know, I say that because there's a lot of people who listen that are kind of turned off by, you know, kind of religious concepts. So they think they hear Adam and Eve and they hear God and relationships and marriage, and they're like, oh, that ain't me. But a relationship is a relationship that when God puts it together. when you yield to that particular thing, it turns into something that you couldn't even imagine. And you don't even like we said, we walk around places and people have these ideas that don't know us, that we like, what do y'all see? We don't understand it, but we understand it now. But it's just so important to, just stay and plug into that flow. And I'm to tell you the truth, it is a listening, because God did speak, and thank God I listened. Thank God I know not only listened, but thank God I heard. Because I could have blocked it my own self. So
Well, I think about even listening. I think that's so important, because people talk about communication in a relationship, and that's one of the main factors that can help your relationship to flourish, or it can, potentially damage the relationship with communication or with the lack thereof. But in that being said, one of the key components to communication is the listening aspect. And I'm not talking about just listening to your spouse, but listening to God, because there are often times that you need clarity even on what the other person is saying or what they're going through, or how to deal with something,
Right.
better or the best way that you can. And you can't think of it in your own reasoning. So you have to be able to listen to God to direct you. And God will even let you know certain things that you need to do for your partner. There have been times when, even when maybe you're mad, like I was a little while ago. You could be mad about something, but I'll explain that in a second. But you could be mad about something, or irritated with the person, or you just, I don't know. I mean, hey, you go through your emotions, right? We all go through our emotions. So you're going to have those emotions when you're married.
Right.
But God can tell you to say something or do something, or even just spark something in you that opens your eyes to understanding what the person is really trying to say, or to understand a different viewpoint than yours that you didn't get previously. So that's why it's important to listen to the Spirit, not only to your spouse, but to listen to the Spirit.
Yeah, and you know what? It is so critical, because I'm telling you, man, I'm driving home this divine flow, because it's so important in every area. I mean, you could literally get in a relationship with somebody that God didn't intend for you to be in, and you could make it work. You know what I mean? You could psychologically make it work. You can find out the love languages. You can do all these kind of things as a Christian person, a spiritual person, and you can make it work. But you will never have the beauty of and the glory of the relationship that God intended for you to be in. So, but I'm not downing, and I'm not pointing any fingers. I'm telling you that, because I'm telling you that God's plan is always the best plan. You can literally, because it's like, it was something I was going to say when you were saying that, and it was like, we've been through most things that other people have been through. We've been through them. Trust me.
Yeah.
One of the major things that people say, and it's statistically, they'll say the number one thing for divorce is money. And when you do it God's way, when you connect with the person, when you allow God to make the rendezvous, and you guys connect, then you will go through things that everybody else does, but you'll stay above water. I mean, we went from buying our first home to losing our first home, to living in a motel for 5 months, transitioning from the motel to a basement of a house that the person that owned the motel was renting out like a motel. And it was all kind of riffraff all around us while she's raising the kids. I'm at work. So this kind of situation destroys most marriages. I had my friends coming to me thousands of times like, man, your wife is still with you, bro? What's going on? You know what I mean? And it was like, I'm like, wow, yeah. And it's like, because the plan that God has all the security around it. Mm-hmm. He knew what he put in her. He knew what he put in me. And even though we didn't know,
Right.
that aspect of God's plan, you know, being there and being done and executed that way kept us from being in a divorce.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Because, I mean, the people, they literally said that. And, you know, especially when you talk about, well, it doesn't even have to do necessarily with age. We were younger at the time, but it doesn't even have to do with age. I mean,
Right.
you could be older and you're still going through a financial crisis or financial difficulty. And any situation that you're in that puts a lot of stress on you can also put that same stress or weight on the relationship, on the marriage, you know. And I think that that's why people say a lot of people end up in divorce, you know, from financial difficulties, because that's such a stress and a strain on you.
Right.
But for us, it really just pulled us even closer together, because it's like, well, why do I want to go through this difficult time alone? Or why do I want to deal with all this crap that I still will have to deal with, but by myself, you know? And there's no pointing fingers. There's no blame game that's going on.
Right.
It's just, you are literally in this thing together, and you're going through it together. You're growing together. You're learning together. You're striving together, you know. And the only way that you can really do that is when you are connected and you're in tune, and you're allowing the Spirit of God to direct you in the ways that you need to be directed. So then that goes back to the listening. But I did want to touch on real quick, because I know sometimes people talk about the 5 love languages, which we believe are great tools to use in a relationship. A lot of people use them in like coaching and counseling and therapy. You know, when you talk about like effective communication, and you talk about what's a couple of the other ones, like what is the language that your partner speaks? So maybe it's the
Touching.
Yeah, the physical touch, the
affirmations,
gifts, affirmations, and gifts. So all of these things are good, but there comes a point when there are things that go on within you and in your relationship that cannot be explained or understood, or even trying to break it down in a psychological understanding between man and woman. It goes beyond that. So you have to have divine interpretation, and you have to have divine guidance come in, and you have to have that divinity to come in and intercept in your relationship when you need it. Because you can have all of those tools, and you can even be practicing those things. I mean, how many people do you know that say, you know, well, I know that this is their love language, which is maybe time. So they spend all this time with their mate, and then they still end up having difficulties, you know. And we're not saying the difficulties won't come, because they will. But one thing that I always even encourage people with is, I don't believe that your marriage has to be difficult. That shouldn't be the basis of your marriage, and that you shouldn't have more difficult moments than beautiful moments. It should be just the opposite. You should have more joy together, more love together, more peace together, and more happiness together that overrides any of the difficult moments. And, you know, I'm grateful that is what we have, but we have that only because we're willing to listen to God. We're willing to follow what God even speaks to us, and we're in the divine flow. We're in that place and in that space that we need to be to thrive in our marriage.
Absolutely, man. I mean, what else can you say? I mean, there's so much to say about this, but you know, again, it's not just even about the relationships. It's about everything in your life. Yeah. It's about allowing God to guide you in every aspect of your life, whether it's your relationship, your kids, your work, your ministry, you know, whatever it is. That is the answer to you reaching your thriving space. Yeah. You know what I mean? Where and your thriving space is the place where you are fruitful the most. So not only you, but everybody around you get the benefit of your thriving, and when they thrive and when they learn how to, it's vice versa. So allowing yourself to yield to that current, to that flow, to that connection, man, it makes everything tolerable, and then it blossoms into this beautiful thing,
Right.
that is, that is beyond explanation.
Because there are things about Jamal, there are things about both of us that that we appreciate and that we see and that we could not have asked for, literally. So when you
Right.
said, it blossoms into something beautiful. So there are things that he does, or how he is, who he is as a person, that I literally couldn't have said, okay, God, I want this as a person. These are some of the
Right.
traits that I want, or I want him to do this specifically. Yeah, there have been things that I have said. I remember praying to God, asking or saying that these were the things that I wanted in a husband before I even really knew nothing about being married. And a lot of those things, really everything on that list at that time, I did get within Jamal, but I got even more in that too. But that only, I believe, has come because of the divine relationship that we have. So there are things that are in him, and there are things that are within me that he appreciates and adores, that I do, that I'm not trying to do it. I mean, yeah,
Right.
of course you want to please your spouse, and it should be mutual. But there are things that I do that I don't know that I do, that he'll say that he really appreciated, or that he loves this about me. And that only comes from this divine way that we could not have planned. We couldn't have planned it. Literally, when I say we could not have planned it any better. And I think that's a really huge point in marriage, is sometimes we do so much planning, and we do so much, we have such a long list of expectations that we don't allow the spirit room to add anything else. We want to have this person in this image in our mind, and by all means, we absolutely should have not settle, and it should be things that you know that you like and that you want in a mate. But my point was that there are things that are in Jamal, who he is as a person, that are greater than I could have asked for. There are more than I could have asked for, because I didn't even know about it. I didn't know I wanted that. I didn't know I needed that, but God did.
Right, and vice versa. And there's this one thing. This is so cool. So we all have our insecurities, right? And I am a very poor complimenter. I've never mastered the game. My brother never taught me the game. He would get all these girls, and I'd say, man, what you say to these girls? He said, I just tell them what they want to hear. And I'm like, well, what they want to hear, you know? So I never was good at that at all. So she was a person that all women enjoy compliments. She needed them, but it's very hard for me to do even now. And we would have a conversation. And remember, this is a candid moment, y'all. So we straightforward. So we would have conversations. She's like, why come you don't? And I said, and it would blow my mind, because it's like, do you know how much I love you? And it's like, there are these outward expressions that you should have, but in myself, I'm like, she don't even know how much I love her. I mean, she doesn't even realize. I can't even put into words how much I love her, and even these, like, her little squeaky voice, her little voice. She got this little voice that I don't know why God put it in me, but it's like I just love it, and it's this softness about her that I just absolutely adore. And there's no words. I can say I love your softness and your voice or whatever, but it's deeper than that. I'm telling you, I can't even tell you. I can't put into words what that is. And so what I'm trying to get to you, what I'm trying to drive home is, God put this together before the foundations of the earth, as they say. He put this in me. He put it in her. We got together, man. Before we were married, we were living together, and this was one of the major reasons why. And my family, who's they know this story, But why I decided to ask her to marry me. We were having dinner, right? Did you make dinner?
I don't know if I did that day.
Well,
I think I did.
we had dinner. She made it. We both, I don't know. And we sat down to eat, and she got up and she brought to the table. She brought this butter dish to the table. Now, you know, I wasn't raised in the streets, but you know, Mama never had no butter dish on the table. So when she brought that butter dish on the table, I thought I was Bill Cosby. I'm talking about the other Bill Cosby.
Okay, I was gonna say, let's clarify.
I thought I was in the Cosby Show, man. I'm like, and it just really struck me. But it's like we take for granted the natural, intuitive, instinctive natures that God has placed in us.
Yeah.
That only the other half of us, the true other half, could see and could realize and could appreciate. Mm-hmm. So there are things that I appreciate about her that totally come from the essence of who she is, and I can't even describe the amount of love and joy and this thing that these things bring me. We've been through some stuff, and because it was the plan and the will of God for us to be together, we got through them.
Yep.
And we got through them, you know, in glory, man. So I'm saying for you ladies that are in that relationship, but you're not sure if the man loves you enough or not sure, you know, I don't know how he can communicate that. If this is that God thing, you know, but you don't realize the two connectors that are there that are hidden and that are telling you, man, this is a God thing and this is supposed to be, you know, it's something.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, yeah, I think that's a really good point that really hits on what I was trying to get at about, you know, there are qualities within you that I didn't know that I needed or wanted until they're right in front of you. So if you're waiting, even if you're waiting like for that person, you know, you're waiting to get married and you're like, you just praying and you asking God and you're just like, okay, when is this gonna happen or what's going on, you know, then just know that God has that person for you, but truly let it be that person for you. You know, don't try to coax something into happening or someone into who you want them to be. Let it come to you the way that God intends for it to come to you and to show itself to you, you know.
Yeah.
I think that's so important.
Yeah, I mean that's the real truth. We were just talking earlier. We were like, you know, God literally already has your life, and it's already made. It's already done. It's already finished. And I know we've probably heard these things before, but your life is already finished. So, what keeps us from experiencing really the life that is ours is especially when it's already done and it's already finished. So on your way to it, as you're on it, the enemy or whatever you want to say, these egoic thoughts or however you want to spin it, their job is to come in and get you off the track, get you off the lane and the path that's already there. Everything's already done. It's already done. We just have to be courageous enough to believe it and then walk the path until we hit every destiny target that's on our path. You know what I mean? And there are troubles and there are turmoil there because we need them to grow. If everything was always peachy cream, then we wouldn't know what it means to have a new joy. You know what I mean? To have a new experience of glory or whatever, because everything is the same. But our job is just to walk through it in confidence and belief, because it's already done. And there are no coincidences unless you make it. You know, it's already done, and just walk it out, man.
Yep. And don't give up on the relationship or on yourself or on your partner, you know, when things get hard. Because I think a lot of times that's what we end up doing. But I'll say that in also saying this. I said this a little while ago. You should have more good times than bad times. You should have more joys and victories together than you do defeat and depression or or despair or something like that. It should always, the joys and the peace together should always override all of the other things. And so if that's a situation that you're in, then let your victories outnumber the difficult moments together, because you can get through the difficult moments when you know that you're in the right relationship.
Right.
So I think that goes back to the beginning, is if you know that you're in the right relationship, then you can work through it. But you have to be in tune. You have to listen to the Spirit, and you have to follow the Spirit's voice, because I don't know if maybe Jamal didn't listen to God that day that told him to come drive to my house, would we be together right now? I don't know. I mean, you would like to think that maybe God would give us another chance or an opportunity down the road to be together. But you just never know.
Yeah, absolutely. How you feel?
I'm going to say something else. Oh, well, I was going to say this. I also was going to say, this is a pet peeve of mine when people talk about relationships and they say marriage is hard work. I don't agree with that, and I don't believe it. What I believe is that, yes, there are moments in your marriage that can be hard, and that you have to nurture your marriage. You have to nurture the relationship. But that's like with anything that you have. Friendships with your children, with, if you're in school or you have a career, you have to nurture that thing, right? If you want it to grow, if you want to be successful in it. So it's the same with your marriage. Yes, you have to nurture it, but your marriage shouldn't be hard, y'all. It shouldn't be a thing that you daily are struggling with, or that you daily what's the word when you hate to go home to it or something,
You said, what did you say? You struggle?
Yeah, like struggle with it, like that you're always, that you hate to, that you're dread. That's the word.
Okay.
That you're dreading like going home, or that you're dreading being around the person, or you're dreading to spend time with one another. Like, that's not how the relationship should be. It should definitely be one of mutual respect, mutual love. Today I've heard other couples say they hate the same. Marriage is hard. Yeah, okay, yeah. I mean, because it shouldn't be that way. I don't agree with that. I think a lot of people say that, and I'm not throwing no shade, but maybe when they say that, maybe they're not in the right relationship.
Right.
Just to be really real. Maybe they're just not in the right relationship. That doesn't mean that they can't get on track and allow God to reveal to them the person that is for them.
Right.
But maybe they're just not in the right relationship.
And to tell you the truth, what you're cultivating is yourself. It's this. We always hear about it being a partnership as it is, but we are learning how to be better versions of ourselves every day. So if that's the hard thing, then call a spade a spade. It's not the marriage per se, like they say. It's like, well, the work that I'm doing on self is what's making it a little difficult, because I didn't realize I was carrying all this baggage. I didn't realize it, and that's okay, because we had life previous to our marriages. You know what I mean? So, but just know that, just obey the voice, be in the flow. Allow God to bring you to that place. And I've heard of people having that divine flow moment where they literally met the person 3 days, and 3 days later they were married, and the marriage lasted a lifetime. Yeah, isn't that wonderful? Because they did it God's way. You know what I mean? So, and again, I'm not over spiritualizing it, but the fact remains that God does have a plan, and He has a person that is strictly and directly connected to you with all of the beauty in it. So. Just know that it's all about marriage is that relationship that changes all relationships, because if you work it, because you're doing the self-work, and it allows you to flourish and thrive and grow and become more in every other area in your life. So
and
that's beautiful.
I think that's a huge point, that's what marriage should be for you. It shouldn't. That's why it shouldn't be, this daunting task that you have to do. Oh, I have to be married, and that's why even this is like when people talk about marriage in media, it always is like this negative view. Like,
Yeah.
oh, you getting married? Oh, shoot, what do they call it? The ball and chain, So a lot of times I feel like people even go into marriage with this negative view. They have a romanticized view of marriage, or a fantasy of how they want marriage to be, but yet they also have a very negative view attached with that. So then they have this idea of like, okay, I want my marriage to look like this over here, but yet everybody shows them and is telling them that it's negative, or that it's hard work, or that you can't have fun no more, you can't do anything anymore, when that is not. I mean, why would God create marriage and want marriage to be if our light went out, if it was supposed to be, or if it's going to be something that's that difficult, or not a joyous thing? So I would say, even if you're in relationship looking for marriage, those should be some of the main things that you look for. Joy and togetherness and love, but not in like you were talking about, oh, he loves me type of way, where they just saying these words, love. But it should definitely be something that's deeper, that's more of a divine type of love, that you can feel in your spirit, in your soul.
Yeah. Well, we don't want to hold y'all no more.
That's it.
The light went out on us, so we're like, okay, there's the sign.
That's the sign.
But hey, remember, so if there's anything that you've heard that you feel is valuable, that maybe someone else could use, please share. And if it's not, then blessings.
Yep. That's it.
All right, y'all. Peace. Talk to you.
See you guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Now I'm touching the screen, so
Yep.
I got to touch two of them.